Hi everybody, and welcome to Traveling with Russell. Welcome to a new video, and welcome to Moscow. Now I'm actually here today to make an interesting video about an exhibit that opened literally only yesterday here in Moscow, and it has a lot of vehicles and military equipment relating to some recent goings on in the world, and I thought I'd take you for a bit of a walk around and show you what it's like here today in Moscow on Poklonnaya hill, which is right where I'm standing just here. So let's go together, shall we? If you're not actually sure about Poklonnaya hill, most people probably commonly know this place as Park Pobedy or Park Victory, and it's a very well-known place in Moscow. It has a very amazing exhibition or museum in honor of the Great Patriotic War, and there's a lot of monuments and statues throughout the park. It's an incredibly interesting place to come for a walk. Now today it's quite a lot busier because of what we're going to go and see, but if you come here on a work day in the middle of the week, it's much quieter. But of course, because of the exhibition, a lot more people are here. And this exhibition is really in a lead up to Victory Day here in Russia, right there on the flag, the 9th of May. And we're going to go check out some vehicles. So I actually came here yesterday for the opening day of this, and yesterday was a non-working day here in Russia, and there was hundreds of thousands of people here. And I decided to come back this morning when it's a little bit quieter. There is still a lot of people here, but it'll just be a little bit easier to walk around and show you some of the things that I think might be interesting, and just talk about what it's like here, what the mood is like, and show you some things. Along with the park, there's some very beautiful apartments very close by. There is a very busy road also off to the left of where we're going to go, called Kutuzovskaya Prospect. You can actually see off in the distance the top of the towers of Moscow city, and from here it's about a 45-minute walk to get to the main city center of Moscow city. It's actually a really nice walk to do from here. Perhaps today, with it being a bit cloudy, it's not as nice, but it's a much more comfortable day today, and the weather's a little bit cooler, so it's nicer to walk around. Although we can't see the actual metro, the steps going down to the metro station is right in front of me here, and pretty much everybody that's coming to this event is coming out of the metro station. It's called Park Pobedy, and it's a very interesting station, and I've done a video on it in the past because at the time I made the video, it was the longest escalator ride in Moscow, 127 meters, and it takes 3 minutes from the platform to get up to the top. And it's a very interesting station. It's now the second longest, and another station took over the mantle just last year. I'm going to make my way through security and get to the inside part of the exhibit. Now it's actually fenced off. You can see a lot of things from the outside fences right here, but obviously we want to get up a little bit closer. When I was here yesterday, I couldn't even get up to this fence in front of me. There was that many people. There is also a small exhibit of military equipment and I believe weapons and drones, so we might have a look at that as well. When I came yesterday, they didn't have any of these other barriers set up. There was just a free walkway into the security checkpoint, and then today they've actually got a little bit more organized, realizing the amount of people that were here yesterday, and you're able to stand right up against these fences right here and actually check out a little bit closer some of the equipment. And the only thing that I'm not happy about is the first vehicle when you approach the entrance here is an Australian one. Now why couldn't they park my Australian vehicle a few vehicles away? Because literally as everyone walks up to this exhibit It's the first word they say, because all the vehicles have a flag on them where they're from. And I just wish they wouldn't have parked the Australian Bushmaster right here at the front. So I'm going to walk along this pathway where everyone else is walking. We're all sort of following each other. I'll get through the security checkpoint right here, and then I'll show you around a little bit more. This is the reason why I've come today in the early morning, is there's virtually no line to get in. And if you're in Moscow and you plan to come to this event, come in the morning and as early as you can, and try and avoid the weekends. Yesterday the lines were probably back to where I'm standing here to go into each checkpoint, and I would estimate about 45 minutes, maybe an hour, just to get in this entrance. And today, literally, I can just walk right in. There is still a lot of people here. Now, I'm probably going to be here for about 1 hour, maybe 2 hours, just walking around slowly. Yesterday, you wouldn't have been able to move in this area, so it's a little bit nicer that you can get right up to the fence and close to some of the vehicles. I'm going to call them that. Some of them really are, and some of them aren't. And there is actually signs posted about each different model, so in case you don't actually know what you're looking at. Now these are literally in the rawest form from the point that they brought them to Moscow from wherever they carried them here. There really is quite a lot of different vehicles here, and each one of them, as I walk around, you'll actually see flags on the front or the side of them. And of course this has the American flag on the door, and this is the very famous Humvee. I think everybody around the world knows this vehicle. Also, there's another one that's a little bit modified with the open top roof in the back there. I'm not sure where they drive that in winter, but perhaps in summertime it's practical. And there's also plaques in front of each of the vehicles with a description of them and the specifics about the vehicle, and even the dimensions and everything that you need to know about it. And there is actually some guys at different points just talking about the vehicles as well, which is very interesting. And they go all the way along this railing right here, and you can definitely see how many people are here now as the time gets a little bit later. I think I need to look up some different flags or know my geography a little bit better. I think this vehicle right here is actually from Austria. Now, it looks like a bread van to me. I'm sure it's got other purposes. And then as I swing around, we get a look at one of the British vehicles called the Saxon. Now, please, in the comments, if you know more about these or you recognize them, let me know what some of these vehicles are. I am actually trying to read the signs a little bit. I'm not in any way knowledgeable about all the things that I'm looking at, so I hope just you watching this gives you a bit of a sense of what it's like right here at Park Pobedy. There's obviously a lot of interest in this event. Now, this is the second day, and a lot of people are at work today, and I imagine some people have time off, or they're not at work or school, and there's a lot of people that have come out to see this. It's definitely a little bit easier to walk around. It's still awkward to get up close and take a photo or a video of some of them. You can see one of the Turkish vehicles. It's the big machine. There is actually a vehicle here from South Africa. Now, I know that flag very well. I've worked with many over the years on cruise ships, and this one is called the Mamba. So it seems to be interesting. A lot of the names of the vehicles are some kind of an animal or some reference to the country where they're from. This has taken a fairly big hit in the window on the other side there, and they've got a dodgy back tire right there, so I don't think you can get a replacement for that now that we're over here. There's a couple more American vehicles right here, and again they've got these signs that tell you all about them, And you can actually read up, even it tells you the specific place where they were recovered from and then eventually brought back to Russia and then here to Moscow. And there's an interesting British vehicle right here. Now, we've talked about all of these animals, and this one's called the Husky. Doesn't sound very dangerous, the Husky, but the one thing that's interesting for me is that it's in the desert colors. Now, that's not awfully practical on this territory, so I wonder if this is one of the vehicles that might have seen active service in Afghanistan or Iraq at some point, but I'm not sure how it's going to hide here in this part of the world. It's definitely interesting walking around and looking at these vehicles up close, and then of course you can hear people talking about each one while I'm standing there, and a lot of people perhaps recognize them already. And just the feeling when you're here and you see them literally meters away from where you're walking, I don't know what to say really and how to explain it. There's just such a wide variety of people here as well. There's families, children, students, mums and dads, and a very big cross-section of the Russian population have come to see this. So it's not necessarily that you have to have some military background or passion to see vehicles or militaria. So it's just quite interesting the amount of people and the different people that are here, along with myself. There is a general path to walk around and along the fences and see each different vehicle as you make your way around the whole exhibit, and of course the different flags so you can represent where they're from. And then these guys right here are giving impromptu talks about the different vehicles and perhaps their knowledge of them, which is very interesting. I don't know if that's a part of the exhibition or not, but it's very nice that there's people interacting. And actually I just noticed there's even a guy with a pointing stick way off in the distance, and he's talking about the specifics of that vehicle where he's standing. I think by a long way the most viewed or the most interest is being shown by all of the American vehicles, and a lot more people stopping and looking at them and then wanting to take photos of them and get up close to them. It's very fascinating just to see how people are interacting with this. Now, there is a lot of museums in Russia that you can go to see military equipment. Almost every town has a monument in honor of the Great Patriotic War. So this isn't really anything very unique. Perhaps the fact that it's not Russian equipment that makes it different versus going to a Russian military museum and seeing some of the historical Russian vehicles. This gentleman again is giving an impromptu talk about the specific vehicle right here, and then everybody listening and gathering around. Perhaps in the British military there's a bit of a theme about naming all their vehicles after different pets. This one is actually called the Mastiff. So what happened to the leopards and the tigers in England? They're named after pets and dogs. It's fairly well known that the British and the French don't see eye to eye on a lot of things, and they're parked next to each other. Now, mostly a lot of it is sporting related these days, and this French vehicle. Now, what's interesting is a lot of the vehicles here are wheeled vehicles, either 4-wheel or 6-wheel vehicles. And then there's one from Finland right in front of us. I think a lot of these maybe are troop carriers of some form. And this thing's in incredibly good condition. I mean, the tires have barely got any wear on the tread. As an Australian living here in Moscow, this is the vehicle that I wanted to see, I didn't want to see. This is the Bushmaster. And these are very well known in Australia. And of course, the Australian government pledged a lot of these to Ukraine. I think it's 120 of them that they've pledged. And of course, this one right here is absolutely destroyed. So if you're watching from Australia, $2.4 million is this vehicle. So each one of these that gets sent and then destroyed ultimately, $2.5 million of taxpayer money is sitting right in front of me here in Moscow. Now, would I ever dream or believe that there was an Australian vehicle parked in Moscow? I mean, I probably would never dream of that. Now, I was curious about the price of this, and when I was here yesterday, I was estimating it at about $500,000, thinking, give or take, $500,000, but $2.4 million for one of these. There's certainly a lot of people also taking photos of this. It's probably the most destroyed of all the vehicles that are here, if you compare it to the others that are parked around it. Now, when I came yesterday and came in the entrance just behind the vehicle, it was literally the first thing that you saw when you went to enter. And all I heard was the word Australiski hundreds and hundreds of times, which obviously most people see the flag on the vehicle and know that it's from Australia. Now, am I happy to see it? I'd have to say no. I mean, am I happy I've come to look at it? You know, I think that's another feeling that's difficult to explain. I mean, there's obviously people also coming to see this generally, like I am. You know, there's obviously different feelings about seeing the vehicle that left Australian soil, was then sent ultimately to Poland and made its way across the border to Ukraine. And it's right here. We're very interesting what this gentleman would say about the Bushmaster. I think a lot of what they're talking about is the capabilities of the different vehicles and what they're able to do or not do. And a lot of people are asking questions back and forward. And it's super nice that they're able to give information about them, even the fact that they're not Russian vehicles. I know I'm not the only Australian in Russia. I know there's a lot of others that live here. We've obviously got the consulate and the embassy here as well. So I won't be perhaps the last Australian to come and visit this. And to this exhibit, I mean, over the course of the next few weeks, millions of people will come here and see these different vehicles and what their emotions are about them. You know, it's hard to kind of maybe grasp that, short of talking to them and asking them questions. My videos aren't about interviewing people, and I'm not going to do that. But just to get a feeling and, you know, understand what people are seeing and looking at, that's, for me, interesting enough, I think. I've decided not to line up to go and see this other tent with the equipment and a lot of radios, CBs, and a lot of just small items that were recovered and brought to Moscow, mostly because of the line. Now it wraps around the corner here and keeps going and going, and it goes all the way down the street, and I'd say roughly at least an hour in line, which is a little bit much, I think. And the line just keeps on going. So I think what I'll do is I'll just focus on seeing some of the main vehicles and getting a little bit closer where I can, and try to point out a couple of the main points of interest. There really is a lot of people, and this is now a working day in Moscow. Why is everybody not at work? What's everybody doing? I thought I'd found a secret to come on a working day in the morning, but it doesn't seem to have worked out as well. There's another American, I'm going to almost call it a tank. It's got the wheeled tracks on it. The M1150 assault breacher vehicle. This thing is very, very large. And then at the front here, it's got almost like a shovel on the actual front of it, so it can, I guess, break its way through territory. And again, I'm just reading the signs. I don't know them from memory when I look at them. Literally, the Australian vehicle is the only one that I know literally without having to read the sign. Along with the American tanks, there is a German one here, the Leopard 2A6. And this is actually the last, or one of the last, vehicles that were put in this exhibition in the last couple of days, right before it opened. Because this was only captured last month, literally, and then brought back to Moscow eventually here. And the couple of vehicles right in front of me, there were a second German one over there as well. And this one were the newest vehicles that were added to this display. The second German tank here is called the Marder 1AZ. And this is the two German ones that are put together. And in the local news, that was the last couple of days before this officially opened, they were actually showing these getting transported into Russian territory and then craned right into this display. They were actually setting this up for a couple of weeks before this opened yesterday, and these were the last few things to be put in place because they're essentially the newest vehicles that make up this exhibition of foreign tanks, vehicles and equipment. If you thought the Australian Bushmaster was expensive at $2.5 million, this is what $24.5 million gets you if you want to buy yourself a American M1A1 tank. $24 million, and it's sitting here in Moscow, absolutely destroyed. Perhaps the flag looks familiar on this vehicle. It's actually the Swedish flag, and they've got some very interesting camouflage on the vehicle. It looks almost like a material that they put over the top. And it looks like it took a fair hit on the turret at the top there. And there's also a gentleman here giving a bit of a speech about the vehicle and the history of it. And then right next to it, there's one from Czech Republic. Very interesting looking low profile vehicle. And again, they've got these signs that tell you all the basic information about them, right down to the dimensions and the year it was made. And it even tells you the location that it was, let's call it, captured in and then returned to Russia. And then there's a very rusty looking one over here with a Ukrainian flag on. There's definitely more people as the day gets a little bit later. And again, a lot of interest seeing the vehicles up close, and perhaps puts in perspective of what we all see on the news and we see in social media, and maybe put a name to the vehicle that you're looking at, especially when you see videos and TV footage of this, and then when you come here and get a little bit closer to them, it makes a little bit more sense. It's certainly hard to put into words or to express what you're seeing, because in real life, let's call it, I don't know, when I worked on cruise ships, we also always call it ship life and real life. And in real life, even in Australia, they don't have necessarily military exhibitions and museums like this. There isn't really the amount of media put into something. Of course, a lot of people are just taking personal photos. It's maybe not about posting it somewhere and showing it, but then there's obviously a lot of media here as well, taking footage. Please let me know in the comments what you think of this video, and it's certainly something quite different from a lot of the videos I make on my channel. It's not a supermarket tour. It's not me going to an expo or going for a ride in a Moscovich. This is coming to something that's a very trending topic on the news right now, something that's very highly searched on Google. So please let me know in the comments your thoughts about this and what you're seeing, and whether or not you want to see something else or something more than what I'm showing here. It'll be just interesting what you post in the comments to me about it. From what I can tell, and I think I've repeated this already, the most interest seems to be in the German tanks and the American ones. Now, of course, the Abrams and the Leopard, these words are very well known, even by somebody that isn't into military objects and names of different things. But there's definitely a lot more people wanting to get up close to these than they are of some of the other objects here. So as I walk around, and as I pointed out a few times, the crowd's getting a little bit more. It's later in the afternoon. I did intend to come here for quite a few hours to make this video, and especially try to get up close to as many things as I could. So I'm just being very nice and patient with everybody. And I've also met quite a few subscribers to the channel as well, which is really super interesting. So if you're watching, thanks for saying hello and also taking a photo with me. It was really nice. And still, everybody just keeps flocking in. And again, this is the second day, right? So naturally, there's going to be a lot of interest in this initially and straight away. So it's very interesting to walk around, and especially seeing these American and German vehicles right in front of me. These are definitely the main ones that people want to see and watch and look at and literally almost touch them. One of the few non-transport vehicles that we see here is actually a howitzer. This M777 is an absolute beast of a piece of military equipment. It's actually towed behind vehicles, and I think most people who have seen some kind of footage of combat, this piece of equipment is used excessively, and this particular one was actually recovered from Luhansk, which in itself, it's very interesting. They actually explain the story of this particular model, and then again in the signs they've got the dimensions and specifics of right down to what caliber the weapon is that they're using inside. I think the last few shots of this video I'll do pointing to the Bushmaster, being that I'm from Australia and this is from Australia. I think it's an appropriate way to end the video. Now, there is of course vehicles from so many different countries here. I've shown a lot of them on the video. We haven't quite caught every different vehicle, but as many as I possibly could in a reasonable kind of way. But there's definitely even everybody wanting to get photos of the Bushmaster right here. And there it is. $2.5 million of Australian taxpayers' money sitting on the cobblestones of Moscow. As I make my way out of the exhibition, I'm actually, of course, here in Park Pobedy, which is incredibly well known in Russia as a place of the monuments that honor the events of the Great Patriotic War. It's a very tough place to come to, even to make a video, to talk about the things that you see here. And then now, with these vehicles and tanks, and to see an Australian vehicle, it's, I guess it sheds more light on what's happening and how serious it is So thanks for watching, everybody. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. These aren't the types of videos that are normally on my channel. Perhaps there might be more of them. Perhaps let me know in the comments what you think of this video and this type of video versus others on my channel. And just generally let me know what you think of what you've seen watching this. If you've made it to the end, thank you so much. I hope it's not too long of a video. I don't tend to edit out too much now, and I just film the bits as you see them. If you want to join me on Telegram, there'll be a link right here to my Telegram channel. And then if you want to watch an old video on the channel, there'll be one coming up right now. You can click that and watch more videos. Thanks, everybody. I'm off on another adventure. Bye.